All right, this is a conversation with Dr. Rachel Birnbaum. It's an important conversation. My name is Ben Applegate, and I've got a great amount of experience with the family law cartel run by the federal government of Canada. Canada runs the family law industry, appoints the judges, and writes the Family Law Act. I've always been an advocate of 50-50 custody, and I believe that would reduce the adversarial process immensely. And what I mean by 50-50 custody, as both parents get equal access to the children, equal time with the children as the default, and also to have accountability within the family law system. And this means this would be done through transparency. So anytime there's a complaint about a judge to the Canadian Judicial Council, this be 100% transparent. Right now, it's not. Also, to be able to acquire the recordings from court. Right now, legally, it's allowed, but it does not happen. Especially, I know the New West Court is extremely corrupt. So this is a New West Supreme Court. Anyways, this is a researcher who makes her living off of studying family law. I had a conversation with her, and I was very disappointed. Um, she seems, in my opinion, to have no will to fix family law and has made a living out of studying the heck out of it. But also, it seems with her hanging up on me that she has no will to really study family law, like open up on ideas. Um, Anyways, you just have to look at this. This is incredible. So she said she claims in our conversation that's going to come up here in a minute that she makes no money off this parenting plan idea that she has. And I said, yeah, you do make money off it. And so I've done a bit of research here, and you can see these are all the publications she has done. So this is her full-time job. She's a professor, making a ton of money, and she just studies the hell out of the adversarial family law system. Custody. These are all high conflict. So these are all trigger words, right? High conflict. And this is great. I mean, the more conflict, the more dysfunction. This gives the opportunity for these professors who profit off of family law to keep studying the heck out of it, but get nowhere. That's the thing, is they produce these papers that are, what value are these? They're huge value. They're making tons of money. This just goes on and on and on and on. These are all It's all her stuff, right? Look at this, women's domestic violence. It's all good stuff, because in Canada we are told that men are the only perpetrators of violence. But we know this isn't true. But the Canadian government, through the CBC, repeatedly tell us that all men, besides of course the elites, are all just violent monsters, all deadbeat dads. Anyways, this is a conversation with this professor who makes her living off of the family law industry by studying it. But when I try to suggest ideas on how to fix family law and remove a lot of the adversarial process, I get hung up on. And again, how would you fix the family law industry, the family law cartel? You would have 50-50 joint custody of the children as the default, and you would have full, and I mean full, data collection. Each person that left the courtroom would have the opportunity to fill out some paperwork of what they thought of the judge, what they thought of the system, whether it was stressing them out. Like, I know dads that have gone to court ended up getting a stroke because of the stress, and these are all things that society should know about. But you'll never see the CBC right about the family law process. It's a multi-billion dollar a year industry. And this is one of the spin-offs. Rachel makes her money from family law. And does she have any will to learn about family law and how to fix it? I don't know, man. I just don't know. Look at this. Look at all these papers she wrote. Every day she gets to dive into all the debauchery created and absolutely created by the federal government and their appointed judges and their policymakers that write the family law. And as you know, I'm Ben Applegate, and I don't have joint custody of my own children because after spending tens of thousands of dollars in the family court system, judges, lawyers, fees, I was given a quote by my lawyer that it would cost another $25,000, 5 days of prep, 5 days of the court's time in front of a judge to present a case where I should be allowed joint custody of my own children. And I gotta say, I don't drink, don't smoke, have no criminal record, no criminal element. Yet, by default, it was up to me as a male, as a dad, to go to court and it cost $25,000, 5 days it would take for me to prove that I was worthy. Maybe I wouldn't even be able to prove it in front of a judge, right? Maybe he would say, no, I think you're not even worthy. But it would cost $25,000 in 5 days of the court's time, 5 days of prep. They would have to interview all my family, my sister. Absolute insanity. And this is Canada for you.
Hello.
Is this?
Yes, you're speaking to him.
Oh, hi, it's Rachel Birbaum calling. How are you?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Good. Is this still a good time for you to speak with me?
It is excellent, yeah.
Okay. You didn't complete the consent form, so I just want to go over it again to be transparent.
Okay.
That first of all, the interview is being recorded and transcribed, but nobody knows who I speak to. I just say X number of people said this or that, and I may use gender, X number of males, X number of females, but that's all.
Okay.
How it would be reported. So I just want to focus in on parenting plan. So I've got some questions for you, if that's okay.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I'm pretty transparent on my experience with the family law in Canada, in the Supreme Court system and family law. So yeah, I'm pretty transparent. I've got a lot of experience. Just over 10 years experience. I've read quite a few books on law, and I've done everything under the sun to try to make my parenting work. So yeah, for sure. I'd love to share.
I just want to focus in. I won't be asking questions about family law or the Supreme Court or about legal issues. This research is really about the parenting plans. And I know you're in British Columbia. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming you got this survey from the National Self-Represented Group.
That's correct, yes. I don't know a lot about them, but I've read some of their stuff, and it seems like they're trying to hold our justice system to account. It seems like that's what their organization's about. Do I read that correct?
Well, they're extremely helpful for those parents who are in court without lawyers and trying to help them out to how to deal with the court. So I'm always very grateful to that organization for helping out with respect to research on different topics.
Yeah, and you're, just to clarify, you're a professor, right?
Yes.
What discipline?
I'm in social work at Western in London, Ontario.
Okay, perfect. Yes. I will clarify that I have self-represented in the U.S. Supreme Court, I believe on 3 occasions, and on 6 occasions I had lawyers represent me. On one of the occasions, that I represented myself, a Supreme Court judge in the New West courts had told me that I shouldn't be representing myself, that Supreme Court, you need a lawyer. So that was a complete fabrication and just bullying on the judge's part.
Sure. Okay. So are you presently involved in a parenting dispute before the court now, and do you have a lawyer?
Do I have a lawyer? No.
No.
Am I involved? Am I involved with the Supreme Court? I have been to court over 50 times to get access to my children and just to see my children. And so, yeah, it'll be ongoing. My children are teenagers now, but I've given up on the court system completely.
So I'm just going to, again, I just want to focus in on the parenting plan. So have you ever used a parenting plan? The guide, the AFCC one, or the template? Because I know you live in British Columbia, but this research is about just parenting plan guides and templates, and in specific, the Ontario one. So have you ever used one for any of your matters before the court?
No, I have not used those ones, but in British Columbia here, you could be sent to a course, and that course teaches you how to deal with things after divorce. The court sends you to these
they're mandatory parent information programs. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So what happens in those? And I went to it, and my ex-partner went to it, and essentially what they do is they just teach bad parents how to do bad stuff. They teach you how to alienate the other parent, and then the courts follow that up with facilitating and encouraging parental alienation and false accusations. I will tell you that I have been accused falsely accused, and the court saw that, and I recorded the whole thing, of child abduction of my own children when I tried to bring one of my children to a dentist. Or no, it was actually a pediatrician on Fraser Street many years ago, and my ex-partner went to court. And I believe she learned most of these tactics from that course, because that course showed you not what to do, but if you read it properly, you could learn what to do if you wanted to be a non-compliant parent.
So your issue, so again, I'm going to go back to, this is research about a parenting plan guide. I appreciate that everyone and most of the provinces have similar programs that you discuss that have to go to court. But I mean a parenting plan guide where it lays out how parents, the things that parents need to think about. So you're talking about your specific issue, correct? Of this whole alienation issue.
Well, it's not my issue. Parental alienation is a massive topic, and
absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty devastating for the children, and it's pretty devastating for the grandparents who want to see their
No, absolutely. It's devastating for everybody, including the parent who isn't seeing the children either.
Yeah, and it's encouraged. I go to the New West Supreme Court, because that's where they sent us, because we had property, and I watched judges encourage the parental alienation over and over again, and almost wink at my ex-partner, and it's an absolutely horrible system. Like, we say that we don't want parents to alienate, and that we want them to follow the orders, but they don't. And I see that you have a parenting plan, and I think that's wonderful, and I'd love to be part of it. I'll do my best, but I will say there's already a court order that I should get to see my children every second weekend. Why only every second weekend, is beyond me. But my ex-partner right now doesn't let me see my children on my weekends. So
I understand. Okay, but this, unfortunately, this research project is really about the parenting plan guide, and I'm sorry to hear of the issues that you have presently, but that's not what I can actually, that I'm allowed to speak with you, nor am I a lawyer to even make any comments, nor would I, about your specific issue. So I do appreciate your time completing the survey, and I certainly appreciate your time that you're giving me now, but it's more about the plan as opposed to the specific issues that you have right now before the court.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to know about the parenting plan, sure.
Well, it's online if you want to take a look at it, and if you have any comments of how to improve it or issues that you have about it, please feel free to email me, and I'll certainly include them as well. Okay?
Okay. Did you have any? Yeah. Okay. Let's go through your questionnaire.
Well, those were the questions because you don't. Those were the questions only about the parenting plan, and as you've not been able to see it, there's nothing further that I could really ask you about because you're telling me about your particular case, and unfortunately, that's not what this research is about.
Okay, I'd love to know about the research. What is the research about?
So when I sent you the information form and the consent, it was about learning more about how to develop and improve the parenting plan guide and template. And that is online for you to take a look at if you with the AFCCO Ontario plan. So that's what the research is about.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to have bothered you or to put you through this when this was not about your particular case and certainly not about issues around alienation, which I agree with you are very, very difficult and very complex.
Well, they're not that complex. They're very simple, actually. But, one parent doesn't let the other parent see a child. That's extremely simple. But I would love to know, and how do I get involved in this parenting plan? So I try to be active in parenting issues and parenting plans. So I did take a look at it. How do we enforce it? Like if the other parent...
That's a very good question. So you're saying to better improve the parenting plan, there needs to be an issue about enforcement, and that's a very helpful comment to make about them.
For sure, and that's absolutely. Without enforcement, the plan is just a piece of paper and a whole bunch of research that really goes nowhere. And
so that's a very helpful comment, and I'm going to take note of that. And if there's any other comment that you have, once you have an opportunity to read it and go through it.
Well, I did look at it, but my problem is those are wonderful ideas about parenting plans and sharing the children after separation or divorce. But if it's not enforceable and if it's just all by consent, most educated people, or even non-educated people, if they want to share the children, they just share the children. I know lots of couples who actually want the other parent to take the kids more because they want to enjoy their life and
sure,
and move on and maybe find new partners and stuff. But yeah, again, I mean, the problem.
That's a very helpful comment, and as I said, I've taken note of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you have any suggestions? Like, I'm all about learning myself. Do you have any suggestions on how we could enforce? Because I do.
No, sir. I'm not a lawyer. I have no suggestions. And as I said, the sole purpose is this is about research. So I'm here to gather information so that I could help distill some of that. But no, I don't have any suggestions at this point. I'm not a lawyer.
Well, you don't have to be a lawyer. You just have to be a person or a parent.
Yeah, I really, okay. I thank you very much for your time, and I certainly will include this as one of the issues to be able to look at. That when it comes to, it's very nice, as you say, to have these parenting plans, but they certainly need to have somewhere to be enforced, and I will include that.
Okay, perfect. With this parenting plan, do you, you guys, who would you present this parenting plan to? So if you get enough research on the parenting plan and it looks like parents are all up for it, where do you present it? Do you present it to the courts? Do you...
No. it's a very good question, and I'm going to give you some context. A number of professionals put this parenting plan together that you said that you have read.
Yeah.
So this isn't about presenting it. It's already online should parents wish to use it. What this research is about is, A, is it helpful, and if so, how? And if it isn't helpful, why not? And you're saying, well, while it may be helpful, it needs an enforcement mechanism, which is a very helpful comment. And I will include that. But it's already online. And parents either use it or don't use it. I mean,
right.
It's
certainly
up to parents.
Do you guys get funding for this? Like, does the...
No, there is no funding. This was done by the Association of Family and Conciliation Courts in Ontario. It was just something that a group of professionals, lawyers, mental health people, came together to assist. It's similar to the one that Department of Justice has on their website as well.
The federal government, the Department of Justice.
Yes.
Right.
I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at that. So we're just trying to see whether it's helpful or not.
Okay. Well, you must make money from somewhere. You seem very channeled down this one path of getting this one form presented.
No, I'm not channeled down any path. I'm just trying to learn. And it's not only that I'm speaking with parents, I'm speaking with a whole bunch of different people, lawyers, mental health professionals, judges, etc., to try to gather more information. Okay.
Where would I find some of the judges' comments, and how would I get
When we're finished the research, we may present it. I don't know. I'm just beginning this research now.
Okay. Now, I do find concern that, like I say, I've been involved with the courts for 10 years, and I've taken the time to, learn the terminology and some of the law. And, I've been alienated from my kids. I've been accused of false accusations. I have many good ideas for fixing family law. But as a researcher, wouldn't you be interested in that? Wouldn't you want to take my information if you're about learning?
No, this is about learning about the parenting plan. The issues about learning about family law is a much broader topic, and I'm more than sure you've got some great suggestions. But I'm only looking at trying to see whether these parenting plan guides are helpful or not. And that was what was written on the information and consent form as well.
Well, can you give me an example of what's in the parenting plan that the average person, the average parent, wouldn't be able to come up with themselves?
Oh, I think first of all, I don't believe there's any such thing as the average parent. I think every parent certainly knows a lot, including yourself. But some parents may not know to think ahead. As children get older, there might be issues around, let's say, passports or vaccinations or all kinds of things. And as you said, you read the guide already online, so you saw how it was broken down into different topics. Uh-huh. And that's all it's about. It's trying to give parents broader ideas of what to look at when they separate. But I also am very much aware that not every parent has the same issue.
For sure, right? So, you gave the example that you'd give ideas such as what to do around vaccinations. Now, I would say that anyone above maybe a grade 4 education that isn't a conspiracy theorist would know to vaccinate their child. Like, is that on your form? Like, vaccinate your child and let the other person know that your child's vaccinated. It seems pretty simple. What else in that parenting, what else good ideas do you have?
We are not an authority figure. We're not the law. We can't tell parents. Parents have to work that out between themselves or with their family doctor. But, there's different issues that come up. So we're not here to say that you must do this.
No, that's not what I said. You gave the suggestion that, children should get, vaccination should be a topic. Sure, okay. Great. What other ideas would you guys have in a parenting plan? Like, give me an example of what would be.
On the website. Okay. You told me, you just said to me a little while ago that you read the parenting plan guide.
Yeah.
So it gives you different options of what kinds of visits there might be between children of different developmental ages.
Visits? Like parents actually visit their children? You mean that's how you guys word it? Like I find that pretty repulsive. Like as a dad, I don't visit my children. I spend time with my children.
And I'm glad that you do.
Well, no, but the word visit. What do you think of the word visit your children? Like, do
okay, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you thought this research was about, and I'm trying to explain it to you. But I feel that as I'm talking, I don't seem to be making myself very clear, and I apologize for that.
Okay, well, try again. I want to learn what the parenting plan and what you guys are doing.
Yes. Well, if you go again, if you go and take a look at it, and you have some concerns or questions about it, I'd like to, and that's the reason why I wanted to speak with you.
To learn what parents go through.
No, not what they go through, to see whether the guide is helpful or not, and if it is not helpful, how can we make it more helpful? But not to tell parents what to do and what not to do.
No, you can suggest it, right? The federal government already, as you said, has a parenting plan idea too that they put on their website. The federal government, which actually runs family law, right? Because we know that the federal government appoints judges to the Supreme Court. That's where I go, Supreme Court for family law. So so they already have parenting plan, parenting ideas. But the problem I think with family law is it's a for-profit industry, and I worry that maybe you are making a profit off of this parenting plan, because I don't really believe that you need parenting plans.
Okay, wait a second. I'm going to stop you right there.
Are you going to?
We do not receive any money for this.
You don't get paid? You're a professor at a university and you don't get paid?
Okay. You're talking about you're saying that I'm profiting from this guide.
You're profiting from family law, right?
Thank you I thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry to have bothered you about this.
No, you're not bothering me. I'm fascinated by this conversation, and I would like to learn more. Are you not?
Ben, I thank you very much for your time. I would kindly ask that if you have comments to make about this guide or template, that you find ways of how to improve it. Like you gave one really good suggestion.
What was that?
Not the only one, about the enforcement of these plans.
Well, but we already have what's called orders in court, and they're not being enforced.
Okay, and that's what I'm going to include. I thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a good day. Okay.
That's all you want to learn about family law? It seems to you like, I do think you're getting paid. I think that you're doing the same thing the federal government is doing, is have these little parenting plans and these courses. But we all know that this is an industry worth billions and billions of dollars.
Okay. I'm sorry to have bothered you, sir.
You're not bothering me. Why do you keep saying that? That's almost a condescending comment. You're not bothering me at all. I would love to share more of my family law experience with you if you're interested as a true professor.
Yeah, but again, I am only talking with you because it's about the parenting plan guide.
Which already exists by the federal government. So you're getting paid to create another parenting plan that has no value. Okay. True parents can create their own parenting plan.
I will put that down, that you believe that it has no value because the federal government has one. And I will make sure I put that down. Again, I thank you very much for your time, and have a good day. Okay?
Are you getting paid as a professor to do another study on family law?
Okay, I'm going to be closing this conversation.
Because it's not going your way, and you don't want to answer any questions. And so now that's it. That's the end of the conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. Again, if you want to take a look at the guide and make comments on it, I'd be more than happy to hear from you.
Well, I can tell you right now what I think of it. I mean, it's wonderful if parents abide by it, but the problem is that it already exists and is non-enforceable, so it's of no value.
And that is a very important comment.
So how do we make it enforceable? Do you have any ideas on that?
I am not a lawyer. So
you don't have to be a lawyer. You have to be a parent and a human being. You don't have to be a lawyer. Lawyers are harshly money-driven and harshly corrupt in family law. Let's do a topic. Let's.
Thank you very much for your time. I thank you again for your time. Have a good day, sir. Bye-bye.
So I looked at this family plan. The federal government has the same thing, right? So the federal government in Canada runs family law because they create what's called the Family Law Act. That's the federal government, right? So that's your liberals, that's your conservatives. But this is the powerful people in the back rooms. So they run family law, and it's a for-profit business. It makes billions and billions of dollars for the federal government of Canada. So they write the rules called the Family Law Act, which doesn't guarantee 50-50 custody of the children after separation or divorce. And then the federal government appoints their friends who do them favors by creating endless trips to court, right? So the federal government appoints, and that means they hand choose federal judges. So they have this whole system it's called a closed loop system. So the federal government basically uses family law to emotionally and financially rape the citizens for literally billions upon billions of dollars. And they do this by making sure that it's an adversarial $300 an hour industry, right? Lawyers make $300 an hour. The Law Society takes a cut, and the judicial councils and stuff, they all take a cut, and this money all gets fed back into the legal system, and the legal system is run by powerful, corrupt elites. So you have professors like this who, admit that parental alienation is a massive issue, and it's probably the biggest issue. And parental alienation is just where one parent doesn't let the other parent see the kids. And then there's also false accusations that they make that everyone knows a lie, but the judges love it because it creates more court time. So me as Ben Applegate, I've been to court probably about 50 times. I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I have some really, really good ideas on family law and basically how to wipe family law right out, how to get rid of adversarial court time. And it's easy as breezy, right? 50-50 custody. We don't need these parenting plans like these professors making money, making new, studying this, studying that, when they know damn well how to fix the family law industry. And it is a massive, massive industry. And I'll tell you, it's easy, breezy, right? And this was proven already by when they got rid of what's called no fault divorce, right? It was called no fault divorce. That means no one was to blame. Someone wants to get divorced, boom, it's done, right? No fault divorce took away a lot of the adversarial stuff in court. You didn't have to go to court to prove the other person was cheating or the other person didn't love you or whatever, right? There was none of that, right? It's just you go to court, I want a divorce, boom, it's done. But it cost the government a lot of money because less people would go to court if it was no fault divorce. So what they did is instead of having 50-50 custody as the default, and that's one of the ways to fix it, just have 50-50 custody as the default, and then there's no fighting in court. There's no adversarial battle in court fighting over the children for $300 an hour. That in my case, I'm up to $100,000, right? When I don't drink and don't smoke. Like, why should I not have 50-50 custody of my own children? But these professors, she says she doesn't make any money. Of course she makes money, right? The school, the government gives money to the schools to do these hokey pokey studies. We need another parenting plan, more great ideas. The fact is that good parents who let the other person see the kids, and you don't need any parenting plan. You don't need any ideas. She starts going on about vaccinations and stuff. We got great ideas. We got to study how parents give their kids vaccinations, right? I mean, if you are a person who believes that your child needs a vaccination, or you believe, which I do, which most people do, they the vaccinations, protect society, and they have. I mean, look at smallpox and stuff, right? So what do you need to study this for? Why do you need a parenting plan if it's not enforceable? It's garbage. But this lady here will study this up to yin yang and make her $150,000 a year as a professor, sitting behind some office and looking for more plans, more studying, right? I mean, we don't need this. All we need is 50-50 custody at time of separation. Boom. All this would be non-issues. And we need to, another major thing we need is transparency in the court system. So there should be what's called an exit poll census when you leave court, so you can give a explanation of what happened in court and how you could fix it. And I'll give another example of that. The U.S. court, the federal employees that work there, so they're the administrators in there, and the sheriffs and the court reporters. We're starting to get a reputation of being really nasty, and people filed complaints. And then I talked to one court reporter in the U.S. Supreme Court, and she said that her bosses had come down hard on the employees to fix their attitudes. So the federal government spends literally trillions of dollars, and it's kind of a marketing thing. So there's something called misandry, it's the hatred of men. So it's a complex political strategy the Canada has, but essentially Canada has to find its way in the world, and they have basically told us repeatedly that men all over the world are evil, just evil. No women are, just men are evil, right? And the federal government puts out videos about men just, we apparently run around beating our women all over the place, and we're all deadbeat dads over and over again. John Horgan even put out a video that's just absolutely shocking, showing that violence, gender-based violence, is only men are involved in gender-based violence. It was a 10-minute video, and not once did he ever show a man being abused by a woman, financially or emotionally or physically. So this is something that the Canadian government has been brainwashing the public, that men are evil and women are good. There's no other way about it. That's just the way it is, right? So the courts have taken advantage of this. Kind of lost my train of thought there. Wow, I guess. But anyways, the courts have taken advantage of this. And as soon as you go to court, the man's a bad guy. Anyway, so, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about just the rude, rotten attitudes of the employees that work at the U.S. Supreme Courthouse. Just absolutely shocking. But anyways, their bosses came down after getting so many complaints and after the public speaking out and saying, you know what, start being nicer. And this court reporter actually told me that, yes, they've been instructed and educated on how to be nicer to litigants, like people like me, like anybody who goes to court, right? They shouldn't be being mean-spirited. And I had mentioned, and this was after a court date, actually in front of Justice Ward, who is my view, the most horrible, heinous man in that I've ever met in my life. But just basic, said that, because I had mentioned to her and I got to chat with her and said, wow, you guys seem so much nicer. And this is not the judges are pure evil, but the employees, the federal employees that that you guys seem so much nicer. The front desk is helpful. You seem nice. Everyone seems really nice. He goes, yeah, I know. There has been a change here at the New West Courthouse. We have been instructed, and we got rid of all the toxic environment. And I was like, that is huge. It makes a huge difference. I said, honestly, you're saving lives. Male suicide in the caused by the family court system is massive. It's one of the dirty secrets that the CBC will never tell you. I've seen some of the research, even from Stats Canada, that show 3 out of 4 suicides are males, and nearly every single one of those is family law related. They say it's divorce related, family law related. So there is that correlation, but the CBC will never put that together. They lie to you and they say, it's all children committing suicide, or it's all this committing suicide. And the CBC is the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, which again is a federal government institution that is trying to control the narrative. And I do read a lot of politics, and I do understand it. Canada doesn't really have a lot besides natural resources. We don't have a lot of people. We don't have a lot of power. So we have to create other scenarios, right? So it's complicated, but essentially they were able to clean up the New West Court in the way of the employees, but the judges, that's where the money is, right? The judges bring in the money. The judges, when people come in with false accusations that are complete nonsense, such as me being a child abductor trying to steal my own kid, when the doctor, the pediatrician on Fraser Street actually wrote me a letter saying, hey, this guy Ben has missed his appointment. What the heck? He was trying to bring his kid in, and that went to the courts, and yet the other parent was winked at, literally high-fived by the judges for bringing a false allegation against me. The only reason they couldn't charge me, because they don't want to charge you. They just want to make money. So I was dragged through the court twice on that instance, and the mom was only forced to pay what's called costs of $1,000, which she never did pay. So, yeah, that's another way of facilitating and encouraging more false allegations by not having accountability and not having enforcement. So back to these parenting plans, where you have professors, you have people being employed by the family law system, doing this research, spinning their wheels. She says, "Oh, I don't get paid for this." Of course, she gets paid for this, right? But she doesn't want to know anything else. She doesn't want to know how to fix the system, because if these professors, if these judges, if the Canadian Judicial Council fixed any of these problems with 2 things again, right? 50-50 joint custody after separation, 50-50 access to the kids as the default, and full transparency of the court system. That means the ability to get the transcripts, the recordings of what goes on, and the debauchery that goes on in our court system. Right now, you cannot get a hold of those. Legally, you're supposed to be able to get a hold of that, but it's impossible. New West, it's impossible. There is no forms. The forms don't get answered. It's just you spend the rest of your life trying to get a court recording, right? And then the judges have to sign off on it, so they just say, no, we don't want to give it to you, right? So fuck off, right? That's what basically that's what they say to you, but they do it in legal speak. So this is exhausting. As you can probably hear it in my voice, but a lot of people make a lot of money off family law. Is it just money? It is huge in the fact that it has a lot of spin-off benefits for, well, they're not benefits. They're actually the exact opposite of that. Family law creates dysfunction. Much like when the same judges, right, they come from the same institution, the federal government created Indian residential schools, and their idea was to basically fuck over the Indians and take their land, right? They knew how to do this, and how you do that is by taking the children. It's called creating cultural genocide. And the judges and the federal government of Canada, who runs our family law, also ran the Indian residential schools in the same way, through smarts, through cunning, and through heinous acts against families and children. And they did that by taking the children away from their parents. Read some stories of actually back in the day when alcohol was freely given to the Indians and they were encouraged to drink to fuck them up, right? Because it's a lot easier taking down a drunk person than it is a sober person. And then they took their land. And of course, it was with the Catholic Church, and I think probably a lot of, maybe not a lot of judges, but some, do enjoy the little children. And at least if the judges don't enjoy little children, they enjoy being the person to help cover it up, because as we know of all the children that were raped, all the children that were murdered in Indian residential schools, there's nobody in jail. How does that happen, right? They just found another 215 bodies a couple towns over from where I live. I think they found 750 bodies buried at the schools, Indian residential schools in Ontario, or I think it was maybe through the prairies. I can't remember. There's just so many popping up. We just kind of lose track. The news media has kind of lost interest in all the bodies. Well, again, maybe not lose interest, but they've been asked by the federal government to maybe downplay it, and which they willingly do, right? Because there's no money in unless they could sell. We live in economy-based country, unless they could actually make a raffle, whereas if you find a dead Indian kid buried in by a school, that you get maybe a Tim Hortons mug or something. If the and I mean that sounds horrible, and yeah, it's facetious as hell, but there is no money in holding the Canadian government to account. They find these bodies. It's a news story, sells a few newspapers, but then they keep finding more bodies. People lose interest. There's no reason to tell that story anymore, right? So anyways, is the Canadian government capable of knowingly, willingly, and actively creating family law, adversarial processes to make billions and billions and billions of dollars? Absolutely they are. They let Indian residential schools go for 100 years until they just could not do it anymore, until it was starting to make them look bad. And then in the early 80s, they came up with a new plan, and it was called family law, and how to make billions and billions of dollars. And that's their newest scheme. And yeah, this prof here, this professor from a prestigious university, making tons of money off of family law. She's going to do a whole bunch of studying. Doesn't want to know anything outside the lines, because she's come up with a family law, a family plan, for parents, maybe how to get the children vaccinated. We need a plan for that, right? Like, is the mom or the dad going to take the kid to get vaccinated? Oh, we need another plan for that, right? Because parents just aren't smart enough to figure that out themselves. But when I tried to tell her the Ben Applegate story, she has no interest in that. There is no money in that. Ben Applegate has some good ideas, right? How to get rid of the adversarial process, which would cost the Canadian government and their corrupt judges billions and billions of dollars, right? Easy breezy, 50-50 custody after separation and divorce, and have full transparency within our extremely corrupt court system. And what I mean by that is I put a complaint against Judge Ward Branch because he refused to let me take my kids to a dentist or a doctor or a counselor outside of my every second weekend access. So by Canadian government's law, it's called the Joyce model. I'm only allowed to see my children every second weekend, even though I don't smoke, I don't drink, but only every second weekend. But I don't get to see my kids every second weekend because of the mom's alienating ways, right? She just disregards that. Yeah, it's exhausting. But again, I lost my train of thought. So yeah. So anyways, yeah. So this professor, right? She doesn't want to fix family law. She just wants to make some money. When family law gets fixed by having transparency in the court system. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. What I was saying there was I put a complaint against Judge Ward, but it's run by judges, right? The Canadian Judicial Council, which is extremely corrupt. And they just took instead of taking my complaint and analyzing it and then writing a letter back, which would have created a document that there was a complaint against Judge Ward Branch of the New West Supreme Court for not letting me take my kids to a doctor or dentist or counselor outside of weekends when none of those specialists work or you can't get an appointment. And the one appointment I did get for a pediatrician, it took 6 months to get in because how many appointments are on weekends, right? They're all grabbed up. So yeah, it's not practical. But when I put the complaint against Judge Ward, the Canadian Judicial Council, what they do is they just throw it in the garbage and they say there's no merit for this and the complaint, and it's all conjecture, and so we don't even accept your complaint. So that complaint against Judge Ward Branch of the New West Supreme Court to the Canadian Judicial Council, which is their bosses, doesn't even exist. There's no paperwork anywhere in the world that I even filed a complaint because they're smart enough to throw it in the garbage before it even gets filed. And that's full-on corruption. So when I say one of the ways of fixing the family law cartel, and it's essentially a cartel, is to have transparency and data. So we need more data and more transparency on complaints and things that happen in court, the debauchery. I'll give you another example. A judge took me to a separate courtroom, and it was really interesting because it was actually Supreme Court. It's where murderers and rapists and embezzlers and that's where Willie Pickton, the mass murderer, went, right? So there's this one court which actually has like the bulletproof glass. This is the Supreme Court of Canada. This is powerful shit, right? It has the for witnesses, or maybe the accused, I'm not sure, but it has two, right? It has one or two glass enclosures that are bulletproof where whoever goes into them to be safe when they're brought before these exact same judges, right? These are Supreme Court judges that rule on family law matters, also rule on matters of the highest degree, right? Way higher than provincial court. So anyways, a judge had brought me to this courtroom. There was no other witnesses. This court was closed at the time, and leaned in and said, listen to this. He leaned in and said, your children don't even love you. And that was his way of being adversarial. It was his way of telling the Miss Applegate, it's an alias of course, that she was doing a good job by refusing to give me access to my kids, by abusing my children, by making false accusations, and basically by creating $100,000. I've paid $100,000 to the court system, so she's also paid a large amount. And that was the judge's way of congratulating her and encouraging her and telling her to keep doing it. You're doing a great job. Now, does that exist, that recording? Absolutely, it exists, because there was a court recorder there and her eyes almost popped out of her head. But it's impossible to get that recording. 100% impossible. And that's what I mean by having transparency. if I make that claim that recording exists, I should have access, no matter what. I should have access to my own court recording stuff that happened, right? So the family law system does not allow for transparency. Reiterate, a lot of people make money off of family law. A lot of money. A lot of elites make a lot of money. And by elites, I mean that professor that just called me, who didn't want to know anything except the path, the strict path that she had created and wanted me to stay on, and not talk outside the lines of, you know, her little project where she makes money. And the other elites are the federal government that makes a ton of money. Even the finance minister, who can claim the GPD, the gross domestic product, is such and such, when she knows, or he knows, whoever it is, whoever the minister of the day is, that a lot of that money comes from family law. Billions and billions of dollars going to the gross domestic product that's fake money. It's just basically money recirculated through the harshly corrupt family law system and corrupt judges and you know, the corrupt people that make the Family Law Act that's designed to be adversarial. And yeah, so those are the elites. You know, your Justin Trudeau's, your whoever, he makes money off it. You know, they're at the top. Whoever's in government, they profit off of family law. They profit off the destruction of families, just as all those elites in the federal government, the judges and the professors who now study the, you know, the Canadian Indian residential schools. You know, there's tons of money studying it all. Study it all, right? Make some reports. But the one thing we must know is that no one goes to jail. It's about money, right? Nobody makes money when you take someone in the federal government that may have visited the school, that may have gone in and raped a couple kids, with, you know, some of the clergy that looked after the residential schools, and then they went out back and beat the kid on the head with a shovel and buried him, right? Nobody makes money by holding those monsters to account. It is all about money, and that's what the family law industry is about. It's money for the elites. Sure, it has a huge devastating effect on our society. Massive. It destroys children. It causes all kinds of problems. But the federal government of Canada is about money, right? And the elite that run the federal government of Canada and profit is about money. So yeah, again, say it one more time. How to fix family law: 50-50 custody, 50-50 access to the kids, 50-50 time spent with the children as the default between the mom and the dad at the time of divorce. And another way, number 2, is complete 100% transparency of the family law system. Every complaint registered to the Canadian Judicial Council has to be published. Every complaint made against a federal judge, such as Judge Ward Branch, those need to be accessible. You should be able to go on to Canadian Judicial Council's website, see there was a complaint against the judge, what the complaint was about, even if they want to write it off as conjecture or, you know, whatever wonderful legal terminology, corrupt legal terminology they want to use. It should still be there. It should still exist. And I say this because imagine if they had complete transparency within the Indian residential schools right now, right? Can you imagine if there's complete transparency all the way through? Every time they raped a kid, every time they buried a child, if they had to create a document, wow. Canada sure would not look very nice, would it, right? But now it's just, you know, it's just 215 bodies we found. You know, there's no proof of how they died. You know, maybe they had the hiccups and died of the hiccups, right? Of course they didn't. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible country we live in that is quite young and has done many, many crimes for its young age, and many of them are covered up. And family law is a perfect example of cover-up after cover-up, right? Complaints need to be 100% transparent. Canadian Judicial Council needs to be transparent. The family law system needs to be transparent. And there needs to be 50-50 joint custody, joint access to the children at time of divorce. And family law needs to be exposed. The federal government of Canada, they're corrupt judges, corrupt lawyers. They need to be exposed. We should have these people doing useful things instead of ripping Canadians off and causing horrible, basically a type of genocide, right? Family law is a parallel to the Indian residential schools. It is a form of genocide, profit-making genocide. And this is what this professor did not want to hear, because this professor would be making no money doing no studies. She would have to study something else that, would be beneficial to Canadians, not just another parenting plan that has no enforcement, that already exists up and down. And parents, for the most part, don't need a parenting plan. And if they did need a parenting plan, these parenting plans already exist. But, every parenting plan would be best drawn up by the parents themselves, because they know, their lives, right? But she was going to make some money off a parenting plan. She doesn't want to hear anything else, just her parenting plan. Anyways, Ben Applegate signing off.